Here is a nice report put out by a bunch of organizations together. The UN is involved. This is the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, the World Bank, and some private entities like Tesol Energy SC, IORA, Veriware, and so on. They provide some analysis of where India is headed, what are the requirements for future cooling, and the sectors in cooling such as space cooling, cold chain and refrigerator, passenger transport and air conditioning, and refrigerators, and what investment opportunities exist to make cooling India a successful green technology, placing India in kind of an advantageous position even from a market perspective for the future. Let's start by some simple background information. We're looking at million ton of refrigeration or metric ton, million ton of oil equivalent, and so on, and of course CO2 equivalent as well. These are the annual growth in cooling demand, refrigerant demand, energy consumption, and greenhouse gas emissions synthesized from various sources. By 2027, growth from 2017 would be in terms of space cooling, cold chain and refrigeration, passenger transport and air conditioning would be 4 times, jumping to 246 metric ton of refrigeration. That's a total of 718. So 2 times the 45 metric ton of refrigerant, jumping to 93.5 in the cold chain and refrigeration, and 3 times to 151 times 151.5 metric tons of refrigerant. For refrigerant demand per year, it's going to be 3 times the 2017 value, jumping to 117,700 metric tons. Sorry, this is million tons, not metric tons of refrigeration. Sorry about that. It's right here. In terms of refrigerant demand for cold chain and refrigeration, that's going to go to 9,775 metric tons. For passenger transport and air conditioning, it's going to jump to 19,181, twice the 2017 value. Energy consumption, twice for space cooling compared to 2017, 3 times for cold chain and refrigeration, and 2 times for passenger transport air conditioning. Of course, it comes with carbon emissions per year jumping to 2 times the 284 million ton CO2 equivalent in 2017, or 2 times the 115 million ton CO2 equivalent for cold chain and refrigeration, and 2 times the 22.6 million ton CO2 equivalent for passenger transport and air conditioning. These are estimates which always involve some assumptions and so on, which means there are uncertainties, but nonetheless overall the numbers are in this ballpark. And we can also look at India's access to cooling across sectors, which remains low. So low per capita annual energy consumption of 69 kilowatt hours for space cooling, compared with a global average of 272 kilowatt hours. But this is going to grow rapidly, as we said, because the India's middle class is growing. India is warming. The easiest adaptation for warming is of course to buy an air conditioner, but this is what is called maladaptation, because refrigeration and air conditioning in fact increase global warming through energy consumption, and also right now through releasing refrigerants like HFCs, which are very strong greenhouse gases, greenhouse warming agents, and we have to worry about that. So in terms of the cost, US $313 million per year of loss in terms of the various products and materials that are being transported, or you can also think of it in terms of productivity losses and so on. So 20% of temperature sensitive healthcare products and 25% of vaccines amounting to this amount, US $313 million per year, are damaged and degraded due to broken cold chains. As of 2018, nearly 8% of the households owned air conditioning systems. In urban residential buildings, current requirement for cooling access is 3.5 times that of consumption. So we have to jump these numbers. There is always a compromise. You want to provide people quality of life and protections against warming, but you also want to do it by keeping the emissions low, right? So the loss here, only 4% of the fresh produce is covered by cold chains, leading to estimated food loss of $13 billion per year. So that's a 96% loss here, and in the refrigeration there is a 4% loss. So this is not a good situation overall. 45% of India's peak electricity demand in 2050 is expected to come from space cooling alone. Okay, so the mandate is pretty clear. India's cooling strategy can simultaneously mitigate the heat-related risks on lives and livelihoods, lower carbon emissions, and position India as a global hub for green cooling manufacturing. So just like India used its investment in science and technology to jump on the outsourcing bandwagon in the 80s and 90s, and now is one of the biggest IT hubs in the world, India can also transition to green cooling manufacturing along the way. Just some points as to what India is facing. Severe heat waves responsible for thousands of deaths across India over the last few decades and are increasing with alarming frequency. Soon India could become one of the first places in the world to experience heat waves that break the human survivability limit, which means the humidity and temperature increase will make human body incapable of cooling down by sweating, because the dew point temperature will be so low. As temperatures rise across India, so will the demand for cooling. Obviously, rising heat across India can jeopardize economic productivity. India's long-term food security and public health security will depend on a reliable cold chain network. Unlocking opportunities to create a sustainable cooling strategy can help India in its post-COVID recovery by boosting investments, creating jobs, reducing emissions, and securing the supply chains of medical care products, health infrastructure, as well as food. Considering India was the vaccine producers for the globe during the pandemic, its industry of medical care products is going to be very important in terms of its protection against warming and such losses. Leveraging existing schemes, the government can position India as a global hub for green cooling manufacturing. This is a incentive in terms of investing in this direction. So to make additional point, making India's cooling action plan a success, the study finds that anticipating the complex cooling energy trends and challenges facing India, in 2019 the Government of India launched the India Cooling Action Plan ICAP to help provide sustainable cooling and thermal comfort for all. We will look at some details of the ICAP in a minute. ICAP recognizes that cooling requirement is cross-sectoral and essential for economic growth. Cooling demand in India is expected to grow exponentially across all sectors over the coming years. While progress has been made on ICAP's short-term recommendations for space cooling, energy standards, and policy action, ICAP has faced some challenges in the overall implementation. There is an unprecedented opportunity for a transformative change in course to implement a sustainable cooling strategy that will not only save lives but boost India's economy. This study focused on ICAP's thematic cross-sectoral areas, including space cooling in buildings, cold chain and refrigeration, transport, air conditioning, and refrigerants. For some sectors, the study analysis revealed data for investment opportunities, job potential, and climate impacts of a sustainable cooling strategy. The analysis identifies 8 key clustered opportunities where concessional finance, which means you provide finance at lower interest rates than the market has set, our market tends to set, can play a significant role in advancing the goals of ICAP and sustainable cooling in India. The Cooling Action Plan includes reduction of cooling demand across sectors by up to 25% by 2037 to 38, reduction of refrigerant demand by up to 30% by 2037-38, reduction of cooling energy requirements by up to 40% by 2037-38, recognition of cooling and related areas as a key sphere of research under India's National Science and Technology Program, and training and certification of 100,000 servicing sector technicians by 2022-23, and building synergy with Skill India mission, which is a separate mission under the government's low emission development strategy, which we will look at in another podcast. So the key recommendations for each sector: so space cooling, opportunities in space cooling where leveraging of concessional finance can deliver results with high climate and development benefits, mainstreaming thermal comfort parameters in affordable housing policies and programs at the national and state levels, enabling market transformation towards super efficiency for high energy impact cooling technologies, supporting the uptake of trigeneration and district cooling systems, so centralized systems which reduce emissions and energy demand, mainstreaming passive cooling measures in urban planning, like increasing green cover and architectures which take care of natural flows and reduction in energy demand and so on. Each sector also has policy approaches needed to scale up action, and I will not read all of them. As an example, we'll read it for space cooling. So, update affordable housing policies and programs at the national and state levels to include thermal comfort as an essential criterion. This is becoming more and more part of the life cycle analysis for buildings, energy supplies, energy demand, emissions, and so on. Align the savings and loan program strategy to achieve ICAP goals, stringent standards and market transformation initiatives. Enact a national policy for district cooling. Mandate deployment of DCS in high density cooling greenfield developments. So these are district cooling strategies, or these district cooling look it up. Sorry. Guidelines for cities to integrate urban passive cooling measures in planning frameworks. Okay. Key recommendations for cold chain and refrigerants. Opportunities in the cold chain and refrigeration sector where leveraging concessional finance can deliver results with high climate and development benefits. Supporting the development of sustainable and energy efficient end-to-end cold chain networks, including refrigerated transport. Promoting better operations and servicing through capacity building of all stakeholders and incorporating effective monitoring systems. This includes tracking the transportation, trucks and so on, trains, whatever, plus tracking the refrigerated centers and all the in-between points, so that the logistic chains are end-to-end managed with things like IoT, for example. Summary of passenger transport air conditioning. Opportunity in passenger transport air conditioning where leveraging concessional finance can deliver results with high climate and development benefits. Improving the efficiency of mobile air conditioning MAC systems in passenger transport systems is a key recommendation. Finally, for refrigeration, summary of refrigerants. Opportunity in refrigerants where leveraging concessional finance can deliver results with high climate and development benefits include improving servicing, maintenance and disposal to reduce refrigerant demand across India. Okay, oops, I flipped it. No, here we are. Summary of passenger transport air conditioning. Opportunity in passenger transport air conditioning where leveraging concessional finance can deliver results with high climate and development benefits again. The recommendation is to improve efficiency of mobile air conditioning MAC systems in passenger transport systems. This is, of course, oops, did I read again? Yeah, I flipped it back. Sorry about that. Anyway, I repeated some of it, doesn't matter. Finally, equitable, sustainable cooling for all is the goal in the end, while also reducing the losses along the way and creating employment and making India the hub of green cooling technology. So we end up with these. Sustainable cooling is not just essential for economic growth, but is critical for a country's health, security and productivity, obviously. As the analysis in this study shows, 8 key clustered opportunities can be leveraged by concessional financing to advance ICAP goals and to implement sustainable cooling across India. The details of where concessional financing will come from, obviously when World Bank is involved, it has its own plans on how to do that, but incentivizing these transitions to green cooling is obviously also part of the ICAP and government's responsibility. Building a conducive policy, business and institutional sustainable cooling ecosystem will require the support of government alongside partnerships between the public and private sectors and civil society. So the manufacturers of these various systems have to work with the government as well to meet the green cooling goals, and of course equitable and sustainable cooling for all. Across India, precedents for cross-sectoral transformative change on such a large scale already exist. Renewable deployment is one, and combining it with LEDs and so on is an example of this large-scale implementation. India's LED bulb transition offers a roadmap to develop a similar model at scale to support the uptake of affordable energy-efficient fans for low-income households across India. So before people can become rich enough to buy air conditioning, you need affordable energy-efficient fans to manage the situation. To turn ICAP's vision into a reality, a flagship Indian government mission to galvanize thermal comfort and sustainable cooling for all should be established. So already some caption is given, title is given in terms of how it can be strategized. Building a conducive policy environment will also help spur action and investments by the private sector toward sustainable cooling. India stands at historic crossroads. Providing sustainable cooling and thermal comfort for all will require investment, ingenuity and innovation. The good news is that there is no shortage of commitment and enthusiasm to take India's cooling advances into a new era of opportunity. As India's brutal spring of 2022 has already shown, the poor bear a disproportionate burden of a hotter planet. 2022 was a unique combination of Arctic influence, La Nina influence and global warming to create very early heat waves which were more intense than usual, longer duration and covered much larger area, which I have written about and talked about elsewhere. So such situations may become more frequent because global warming is expected to favor a La Nina like pattern, which sets up a certain pressure pattern over India, which not only affects the monsoon but also the summer during March, April, May and the winter months. So we have to pay attention to all these things when we think about the future of cooling and especially sustainable and green cooling and so on. So this is just a brief introduction. It's a long report. If you want the details, you can follow up. Okay.